Cool. Let me test this out here. Hi, guys. Welcome. I think we're just getting started. Howdy. Thanks for stopping in. I'm setting up because we routinely have my beloved technical difficulties at the beginning of all these lovely videos. All right, cool. I guess we started, right?
Yeah, it takes a couple seconds.
All right, hope you guys can hear me. I'm using a microphone right now. Oh, good. Cool. Working. All right. Every time I do this, like the first minute is a heart attack of frustration because I put a lot of time into, hey Taco, what's going on? We put a lot of time into sourcing good material, educational stuff, researching and setup, and I hate it if the microphone and things aren't working proper. It's a lot of work. So thanks for stopping in. So tonight we're going to be talking about one of my favorites, nutrition and health for your chickens, the biological lever of nutrition, how it controls growth, reproduction, and behavior in chickens, which is actually quite true. Chicken nutrition, poultry nutrition is very new. Hey, Steve, what's going on? Thanks for stopping in.
Thanks for letting us know. Everything is well. Did you want to introduce ourselves?
Oh, yeah, let me introduce ourselves. Who are ourselves?
We are the Dinosaur Omelet. I am Angela.
My name is Christopher. Welcome in. Welcome in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, welcome new guys. Anybody new here? A little bit of information about us. So this is a education strong, I would say. Would you say that? Yeah, we're pretty intensive education channel because we're actually hands-on people. I mean, this whole homestead movement that started, I got like when we started, I talked about this goofy Instagram movement where it's people taking pictures of themselves. Yeah, okay. Do you have skills along with the smiles? Which is fine if you want to have nice pictures, but I really encourage skills development, and I like learning, so since I like being a nerd, I push my glasses up. I like to learn, so I like to share that information.
And we also like to encourage others, whoever, is watching and wanting to learn about self-sufficiency and skills, things that better your quality of life, and having good information to start, or at least finding a source.
Knowing is half the battle.
It makes a big difference in your success and, removing stressors or frustration and such.
Hello, Fuller Gardens. Thanks for stopping in. You can't stay. You guys are almost at 1,000 subs. Hooray.
I know, we are. We're so close.
Popularity was never one of my pursuits. Anywho. Yeah, man. So learning about your endeavor increases the quality of your time spent doing it. So that's why I try to stick with these learning classes. Sometimes they're more free form. We'll do an open Q&A like 101 session. This is a little more focused today about a specific area of study, which is going to be the role of feed in your poultry's performance, their health. And we're going to talk about some feed compounds to give you a little education so you know some terms that you're probably commonly going to hear when dealing with different feeds. And when you're looking for a feed, a lot of the people we deal with are pet customers, or they're very concerned and caring about their chickens, so they want to have top quality stuff.
Or there are people who are raising poultry for self-sufficiency and perhaps, or just raising poultry in general, and perhaps are finding some behavioral changes or challenges, maybe physical difficulty with, feathers not looking the way they should, or aggression, like all sorts of stuff that proper nutrition actually highly affects. So
Exactly correct. But it's not always nutrition, and I'm going to talk about that too. So I guess we'll get into this. Last thing, guys, as always, go check out my wonderful links down at the bottom. They're all free. We got all kinds of educational stuff that we wrote here. This is my favorite thing I always talk about. Because we raise Coturnix quail.
The jumbos.
They get about, I got a cartoon finally printed. They get about this big, right?
It's like the size of a grapefruit.
Yeah, about the size of a grapefruit.
Yeah, that's really
This is about how big
realistic.
they get. I do illustrations. I like doing kids stuff. So that's about the size of a quail. This way I don't have to bring a live one around. I can bring a cartoon. All right, anyway. Down in the description is this Q&A, which will tell you how to start raising these quails proficiently without a problem, as well as some other good like homestead related information and educational stuff. Okay, cool. To begin this, feed is a biological lever, which it is. How nutrition controls growth, reproduction, and behavior in chickens. before I begin this entire thing, I want to tell you my core philosophy pertains to animal husbandry or health, particularly, which actually pertains to humans, or actually most things. I look at things as systems, a systems person. And what is a system? A system is a hierarchy of subsystems, and they're all complex, and they're all interrelated or interconnected and interdependent. And they're very, very complex. Systems are very hard to grasp. Our brains aren't designed for the complexity of systems. Our brains are designed for A-B causality, or like A causes B. That makes sense to us because that's how our brains are evolved. But that's not how anything really functions. They function in very complex systems. And that's true for nutrition, health, and wellness, for yourself or for your chicken. It's not just, if I go on a diet, I'm well, or if I sleep right, I'm well, or if I eat right. You have to do all these different things to optimize that system. And it's true with chickens. So we're looking at one component of poultry's overall well-being or system, which is going to be their nutrition, and only a portion of their nutritional needs.
And a couple examples of what the other components could be would be what, like the social dynamic.
Yeah, do they go out with friends? Are they hanging out on Friday?
The environment that they're in.
That's all true. Yeah, a stress environment can affect their absorption of nutrients or their feeding habits. Their social interaction will also do the same. She's quite right. But that's all part of their system.
Yes.
And that to state, and you guys, I mean, that sounds like a mouthful, but it's pretty important. Man, I wish my system was well. Freaking stomach bug. I know, poor Kelly. Correct. Like it may not just be an infection or like a bug that got you sick. It may be, all these other contributing factors that helped you get sick. It's like when you're immune suppressed. Stress, lack of sleep, that sort of thing. And it's the same with the birds. If they're having instigating factors that are going to inhibit their immune system or compromise their feeding behaviors, they're going to be susceptible to much the same sicknesses and maladies we human upright walking creatures have. All right. Anything else?
I don't think so.
I talk too much.
No, that's
I told her I could beat that 24-hour filibuster guy easy, no problem.
Yeah, and then you gave me a couple examples. What was it? You just would start talking about like your favorite things.
Oh yeah.
Just
right.
go from topic
but
to
this
topic.
is actually one of the things I do like. So just like humans, chickens' physiology is shaped by their wild ancestry. So in the wild, they're looking for all of their nutritional needs and developing a full nutrition profile, what's available ambiently or in the environment. Here on the homestead or where we're living, keeping chickens, they don't have access to all of the goodies that their bodies naturally would have had access to. So I always say this. This sounds terrible, but we're creating an artificial environment, and we're giving them an artificial diet. Now, this is true, scientifically speaking. It's not their natural, endemic, whatever, indigenous diet that they're eating. These are artificial diets. So we're in control, and it's dependent upon the caretaker to provide a full quality nutrition to the bird. I hope that makes sense. I know it's a lot of words.
No, that makes sense. It's like you have an aquarium, same thing.
Right.
You're providing everything the creatures need.
Yeah, these are controlled environments, and they should function optimally as long as everything that's needed is going in correctly. They should function optimally, just like the aquarium. If you stop tending to it, it gets fungusy and everything dies. So the chicken's diet's developed on its natural foraging behaviors. And something I'll probably talk a few times about tonight with your birds is nutritional wisdom. Nutritional wisdom. This is like, you ever hear about dogs eating dirt? Right? I think that's pretty familiar. The dog's out there, why is he eating dirt? Because he nutritionally knows or understands instinctively that there's minerals or or something in the dirt that his body's lacking. So instinctively, he's going to start munching down on the dirt. A lot of animals do this. I suppose they all do this, but a lot of animals do this. Chickens definitely do this. That's how they feed, and that's how they get their nutrients, is through their nutritional wisdom. I mean, they're foraging all day, but their body knows what they need, so they're going to forage for what they need. We produce a whole grain feed. I'm not going to sell you on it, but it's a top quality feed. We put top tier ingredients in there. We did a lot of research on that to make sure what we're giving them is an artificial diet is going to be sufficient and healthy for them. You know, this phone, I turn off these announcements and they still pop up. So, and it distracts me. Oh, it's distracting. Okay, so where was I? Chickens forage for the wild food, nutritional wisdom. So that's something you're probably going to hear a couple times tonight because it comes up when there's deficiencies. Okay, cool. Please, anything to add, ma'am?
No.
Okay.
You're doing fine.
All right, cool. All right, I take notes on all these stuff, and a lot of this stuff I do know. It's not like I'm just learning it for the first time. A lot of these YouTube channels, these guys they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, we're trying to have structure and proper flow and make sure the way we're communicating these topics is done in a way that's understandable.
Yeah, if I'm talking too nerdy, let me know, because I'll turn down my nerd dial just a bit. I usually keep it on like 7, 8, or 9.
But we don't want to be rambly and, go off topic too. So that's why we try to keep it structured.
What are you saying over here?
That's why you have an outline.
You do great notes now. Oh, thanks, Kelly. So, nutrition as a lever. And chicken's feed composition is not just its fuel. It actively sets biological levers that are controlling its growth rate, its size, its egg-laying maturity, okay, and the age and time it may be laying eggs even, as well as feather cycles, etc. So the nutrition's quite important in managing these cycles because these animals, they're in your care, and especially getting chicks, they're going through growth cycles and growth stages. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be requiring the same nutrients from chick to
once they're mature.
Into their mature state. Their nutrient needs and their energy needs definitely change. And if you don't know about that, it's not very difficult. There's things to understand, some basic tenets to understand. Maybe we'll talk about later. But they definitely have needs at different stages. Just like a kid. Kid's eating like a monstrosity when he's growing, and then when he's 90 years old, he'll have half a piece of toast for the week, and he's done. I had a piece of toast 6 days ago. I'm good. All right. So fundamental nutrients in chicken diets. So there's going to be the 6 primary nutrients. I'm including water as one of them, but your energy requirements are carbohydrates, fat, okay, and then you're going to have your builders, your proteins, the amino acids, vitamins, and minerals. And I already mentioned water, which has been 6. So these 6 things, and water, of course, is the chemical base for everything that's going to make everything function in there. A lot of those chemical reactions, you need the water, and all those cells are water. So do be sure to have fresh water for everybody. But if these things are not present, these 6 primary nutrient classes, or at least 5, if not counting water, if they're not in the proper ratios and the animals are not getting sufficient amount of nutrients, you're going to see suboptimal performance, okay?
And that could be if you could have all of the proper nutrients, but in improper ratios, then that can cause some potential issues.
Yes, indeed.
So it is, important for that to be
Homestead
balanced.
Matters dropped into our live.
Oh.
He said hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'm Christopher. I think I wrote to her a couple of days ago saying hi, or I left a voice message. I hate texting. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, so there's 6 nutrients. Easy stuff, and I'm trying to equate some of this to like what you guys would naturally think of for yourself. Like, oh, I need fat, protein, carbohydrate. I'm not going to get into the biochemistry and the nuance of that stuff because it's extremely complex. You can go and get PhDs just on those 3 things pretty easily. But understand they're going to be needed in their proper ratios. Energy drives intake. Birds eat to meet energy needs and other nutrients follow. Right, so we're looking at our feed as I guess the base is going to be your energy need, but then all of these other nutrients are coming in. The animal needs energy to forage and to look for what it's getting. And a properly mixed commercial grade feed for your chicken stage and growth, or even breed specific, if it's a properly mixed commercial feed, everything should be met. Yes? Everything should be met. If there
I was just gonna say it properly. Everything you're using the right words properly, and there of course are there's lots of feeds on the market that aren't properly met, or there's substitute fillers, ingredients and such.
That's actually true. There's a PhD for poultry nutrition. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I have my P. I need to get the HD. So I'm slowly working. No, I'm just kidding.
Anyway. So yeah, properly.
Yeah. So what's happening too? People might be thinking like, oh, they're overfeeding their chickens. Chicken has a lot of fat, and what's maybe happening is the chicken is not actually getting enough of a particular nutrient, so it's overindulging in energy dense foods that don't have the nutrients. So you have nutrient deficiencies in the food. The animal's trying to get the nutrient, nutritional wisdom, and they're pecking and eating constantly.
Yeah.
So maybe they're not really being overfed as much as they're overeating to acquire a missing nutrient. And this is particularly of concern to people who do their own home mixes, like you're mixing at home. But luckily for you guys, I should have put this on there. There are online resources that can help you break down and understand like the overall composition of a homemade mix of feed.
Yeah, there are additives that people can get with the vitamins and minerals and such, and amino acids.
Oh, here's one you can speak on.
Foods.
Right. Sorry. Correct energy density ensures they also meet protein and micronutrient requirements. Now, there's protein versus amino acids quality. If you guys don't know what a protein and amino acid is the lower chain molecule to build a protein. So, everything's protein. The feathers are keratin, that's a protein. The muscle, of course, everything, skin, hormones, all little proteins. It's a big part of what they are. So they need amino acids. And we humans, when we eat protein, right, it doesn't go into our body as protein. We first have to deconstruct it. The cells are going to use protease, these enzymes. That's the enzyme that breaks down protein. Break it apart and reconstruct it from the... It's like getting a Lego house in the mail, but you want a Lego car. So you have to take apart the Lego house, and you have all the Legos, but you have to rearrange them. I think it's a metaphor that is similar to that.
Yeah.
So they're taking a Lego house, and they need to turn it into a Lego car. And that's what the cells are doing when we're breaking down, or the enzymes are doing, and they transport them. It's much more complex than that, but it's simple enough. So the protein is the house, and the amino acid is the Lego block.
Yeah, so
I'm giving myself a pat on the back for that one. I just thought that one on the top of my head.
And the amino acids, they're not something that the body is able to produce, so they do have to consume it and then convert it. Is what you're saying?
Some of them, yes. So there's, I'll talk about it in a minute. Why don't you talk about protein quality and amino acid quality, about crude protein versus, like, we discussed this earlier, like, are they getting what they need, or is it just a junky protein? Did you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what my thoughts would be on it.
Okay, so when you're looking on your bag of feed, it doesn't tell you usually exactly what's in it. It'll give you a rating or an amount of protein, like crude protein. It's not telling you the types of protein. So that's where we do our due diligence, because the proteins are made of different,
Oh, right. So what Christopher was saying was that
Amino
not
acid.
all proteins are created equal, essentially. Like, so some...
Yeah, I could have a bunch of like 4 square Lego blocks in my protein, but I need 6 square and 1 square.
Yeah, so...
If that makes sense.
So there are some feeds, for example, maybe it says it's 20% protein. And then you might see another feed, it says 16% protein. And if you research the type of protein that's being used, with detail, then you may learn that, yes, the one feed says it's higher in protein. So, that means better, but not necessarily. I talk often about plant protein versus animal protein. And
great example.
The animal proteins.
Isn't that a song? I don't know. She doesn't know anything about music, and I don't know anything about popular music.
Some feeds, maybe with the lower protein content, is using a better quality protein. That's what I'm a big fan of, the animal proteins. Fish meal, swine, crab, like different types of animal proteins. The quality is better, and even though the protein content is lower.
It's the one thing I remember from high school bio. What's that? The amino acid thing? I failed all of my high school bio classes. I was the worst student.
I don't remember. But even though one feed with a lower amount of protein, but the protein content is more quality, it's better quality, the bird is going to reap better benefits from it. Their body is going to receive
their biology is going to receive the appropriate nutrients, or in a higher ratios that are required.
Yeah, so just because one feed might say has a high protein, if it's not a good protein, then
the
they're
amino
going to
acid
be deficient.
Yeah, there's an amino acid profile. The high school bio told me that mitochondria is a powerhouse. Well, yes, it does. It's turning it's making the adenosine triphosphate, right? The ATP, glucose molecule, and it's the engineer guy. It does a lot of stuff, but yeah, that's one of them.
So yeah,
I'm not. Oh, I should give the whole speech. This is not scientific advice. This is purely entertainment and for fantasy fun. Is that like what we're supposed to say? I think it's too late. Anyway.
This isn't veterinary advice?
Yeah, this is not veterinary advice. So the protein quality matters because when they're digesting it, are they going to be utilizing this protein amino acid profile that built the protein?
And just a quick example with plant protein, for example, they use like soybean. There's different proteins and different plant ingredients, so they might add more of some sort of plant to get that protein up higher. But again, it's not all proteins are created equal.
And chickens are omnivores. They eat small animals, insects, fishes,
Snakes,
salamanders. Yeah, so they are not vegetarians.
Yeah.
Okay, fundamental nutrients, we discussed some of that. That's important stuff. So I hope, if you guys have any questions about that, sound off, let me know. So I'm going to move on to the amino acids lysine and methionine. Lysine and methionine. These are essential amino acids, and what that means, again, the little Lego block building the house. Many of the amino acids that we need, we can synthesize, we can make in our body. Same with the chicken, they can make them. Their cells are like, we don't need those, we can build them from other stuff. Same with the chickens. However, there are essential amino acids. That's just like essential nutrients. Essential things are the things our bodies can't synthesize, and thus we got to go get them from out in the environment by eating them up. So for the chicken, methionine and lysine are critically important. They're also known as limiting amino acids. The chicken has about 10, I think it is 10 essential amino acids. Human being has 9. We have 9 essential that we need to get from diet. Chicken has 10 they need to get from diet. But yeah, lysine and methionine.
So real quick, when you say essential for somebody who are wondering, what are you referring to? What does that mean?
Essential intuitively to you means like, oh, you definitely need it. But
like daily? Okay.
No. When somebody's thinking about it, it sounds like the word, the way we use it in our parlance, like in our language. We use the word essential, meaning it's something we need.
Right.
It's something different. Essential in biological context or nutritional context means your body cannot make it or synthesize it. It needs to get it. It's essential that it's gotten from somewhere because you can't make it in your body.
So that's why, parents are always telling kids to eat their vegetables and their proteins, and there's different foods that even us humans, anything alive, needs daily because it's something that our bodies don't create. Yeah. So the essential. So
lysine and methionine, they do have functions in the body, but they're also known as limiting amino acids. You may hear that. And if you guys are taking your chicken stuff serious and you're looking around, somebody will be like, oh yes, the limiting amino acids, and you don't know what they are. What do we do when we don't know something? We pretend we know. We're like, oh yeah. Everybody does that. Like, I'm going to pretend like I know until I can either figure it out or look it up on Google later. But so what is a limiting amino acid? The way I remember it is it limits the use of other proteins or amino acids, which is true. So you need, if all of the other needs are met with their amino acids, but the lysine and the methionine are not present, it's going to interfere with the ability for those other amino acids to be turned in whatever proteins they need to be turned into for the body to do that. So lysine are essential. Chickens can't synthesize them and must get them from feed. It's common in the soy diets. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I don't want to go too much into there.
Mm-hmm.
They are the building blocks of every protein in the body. Muscle, feathers, keratin, enzymes, etc. And even a small deficiency can have consequences, which is true. A friend of ours who's watching was talking about a feather pecking issue not too long ago with quail. This was because of methionine deficiency, most likely. Because with the methionine, that's how the feathers, that's a major compound in the feathers. Okay, methionine, this amino acid. And what's happening with feather picking? There's other causes for it, for sure. Aggression, like stresses, overbreeding, all right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes feather picking may be a result of a insufficient methionine present in the feed. Again, if you're home mixing, this is something to be aware of. And why are they feather picking? Well, like earlier, we talked about nutritional wisdom, right? The animal knows it needs something, and instinctively it can get it for the environment. So what does he do? Goes to his neighbor and starts trying to eat their feathers.
Or do it to themselves.
Yeah,
They'll
to pick out their own
feathers.
feathers to get that methionine.
Mm-hmm.
It's rather fascinating. So they do that kind of behavior and sometimes cannibalizing behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes up much of the feather protein, and that can instigate that feather picking behavior to recover some of that missing nutrient. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, so lysine. Lysine. What are we going to talk about? Lysine, blah, blah, blah. So, right. Well, lysine is going to, so lysine affects a lot. Like, again, it is a, what did I say? Limiting amino acid is going to be a constituent compound for growing other proteins. Ugh, more internet pop-ups.
Okay.
I get very distracted. I don't know how to turn these. I'm like the old guy in the 80s with a VCR.
You're okay.
I don't know how to program this. I can give these announcements on my phone. So lysine, again, a limiting amino acid is going to be vital for the building of proteins. However, one of the signs of a deficiency in lysine is poor feathering. Like, so Angela's feed, the feed that we mix, we have to be very careful. Well, I don't want to say we have to be very careful. It's specifically blended and made so that all of these nutrients are met. Particularly, we need to pay attention to lysine because she raises her silky chickens and their feathers.
Yeah, so our feed, it's a whole grain, a non-GMO layer feed, and we also add a breeder and show supplement and NutriBalancer, and all of that, it's properly ratioed to make the feed very nutritious and support that really pretty feather growth, the shiny, and then keep their forms proper as they're growing, just vibrant, and even there's even probiotics in there, so it even helps with their immune system. So I mean, we're gonna get into this, I think, but proper nutrients in the daily feed will affect
Hey, Andy Rabbit's in town. What's up, buddy?
performance of the animal, the bird, as far as
Lysine.
laying eggs go, and health and growing feathers and that sort of thing.
So Kelly's asking, lysine can fix the feathering issues? I know methionine has similar issues, but it's pricey and very low in most common commercial feeds. Yes, so you want
It
to...
is important to check the ingredient list on
You don't want to add... Too much lysine is not good because it becomes unpalatable to the chickens. They're not going to want to eat it and they'll start losing weight. You need to have everything in the right
and
proportions.
they can get grumpy and temperamental if they're not eating properly.
Again, going back to the thing I mentioned at the beginning of this whole video, the animal knows what to eat naturally in its environment, its natural ancestral environment. It does no longer have access to that. Okay, so we need to make sure that we're simulating that complete nutritional profile the animal would naturally get for itself, spending all day eating wild stuff, since it no longer has access to it. They're not going to eat a whole bunch of extra lysine or any particular amino acid because they're going to have a properly balanced nutritional profile. I can't find a feed with even half as much methionine as my quail need. Combine won't ship Utah.
Oh. Yeah, so the lysine, it's specifically crucial for the muscle growth, the egg protein, and overall weight gain. And then the methionine, as we've already discussed, is vital for feather, keratin, um, methylation reactions, and immune cells. If you want, I don't know if you already said all of that.
Yeah, I haven't talked about immune
But
cells quite yet.
They're just so they're important to be both present and at proper ratios.
Yes, indeed. Okay, here's one you're good at because I've been talking to damn much. Nutrition and growth performance, basically the percentages of amino acids or proteins, really, that we're looking for and what's happening. So I'll pretend I'm interviewing Angela. My chickens are going through growth stages. Do they eat the same thing as their chicks as they would at, what is it, pullet age?
Chicks
And
adolescents.
mature? Is it the same feed?
No, it wouldn't be. No. Yeah, so
I'm going to get some water.
so chicks, day-old chicks, up to a few weeks old, depends on the breed, because some breeds take longer to grow than others, and then the species, if you have chickens or quail. But chicks, they are in a state of growth and development, so they're going to need like a higher protein feed. Usually it's going to be around 20%, 18-20%, or a little more, depending on the breed again. Like Silkies do really good. Silky chicks do good on like 20 to 22%. And that will support the proper skeletal development, the form, the muscles, the feathering, everything. And then also the proper, the gaining of weight as well. So once they are becoming pullets, they're close to laying eggs. If they're getting the proper ratio of food that's proteins and such, that's proteins and fats that's supporting their growth, then they're going to develop some fatty tissue or fat tissues, healthy fatty tissues, which will help them be able to go into that egg laying stage. When they're deficient in the proper amount of protein, then they might end up being their body size development will be smaller. The amount of fat that they have in their body will be less, and they might be delayed in egg production or just maturity.
You're stealing my info, man. That one's but that's okay. That's fine.
So it is important that developing chicks and juveniles are getting that high protein. And those of you who are familiar with like broiler chickens and quail, they same thing, but those ones they have the jumbo quail. They have a rapid state of growth, so they are growing quickly, but they're growing even faster than the other breeds. So they definitely need a very, very high, much higher.
I wish I had the ability to do pop-ups on the screen because I want to pop this up very frequently. Boink! Do remember that diet isn't the only thing contributing to the health and well-being and growth of your animals. Mm-hmm. It's a total well-being system that needs to be maintained. So yeah, the nutrition, very important. But again, like if it's a stress cluttered environment and your chicks are all mushed together, it's hot, they don't have access to the food at all time, or the water's dirty, all these things contribute. Remember, you're trying to simulate an optimal, like a chicken garden of Eden, really, that you're trying to build. And again, which is never going to be perfect, but.
And again, the quality of the feed, the quality of the protein, the type of protein in the feed absolutely affects the growth rate and success of the growth in the bird.
So here's what we do, which is really stupid. We make good food, which costs money. Okay, we could use a lot cheaper ingredients. And I'm not like saying, aren't we great? But I mentioned this before. Once you learn things and you have the slightest, you don't even need a lot, but if you have slight integrity, you can't treat people like they're idiots. And so you do the education, you learn this stuff, and and a lot of consumers are buying products, they don't do the due diligence thing. They rely on the manufacturer to be the safeguard. The manufacturers, they have an incentive, which is,
making money.
The profit, the profit margin. So I'm not saying all feeds, like the small batch feeds, those people probably, they're more artisanal. I hate that word, but they take their time to develop a quality feed.
Yep.
And they probably learn about the nutrients, and they know this is a highly competitive market. Integrity seems like it's becoming a lost art. I'm going to go on one of my rants about that later. Yes, yes, it is, but I made a video about this. I don't care what anybody else does. I'm going to continue to stay focused, and you want to be a degenerate? It doesn't matter. if being a degenerate and a liar or a thief is normal, I'm going to be abnormal. That's fine with me. Who cares?
And part of it too, when you're thinking of like, you know, products and such, of course, cutting corners and people just options becoming difficult for the smaller guys and limited can create difficulty in them succeeding and sticking it out with whatever they're pursuing, whatever product they're pursuing to get it going well enough. So, but yeah, that's the integrity.
Like you were saying earlier, crude protein. So I'm making a cheap food, whoever it is, you're looking on a bag and the bag says, oh, it's got X amount of protein. The consumer doesn't know. I've been talking for what, like 40 minutes almost, just about protein in a very basic way. Mm-hmm. And that still probably isn't enough to really understand what's going on. And then the manufacturer puts a label, the word protein, on a package. And so what as a manufacturer, particularly marketing and advertising, we know that the consumer knows very little about protein other than what he's kind of like heard in like the health space or nutrition space for people, and they don't really understand how it functions in the poultry. They're meeting their stipulated needs, like the requirements that for labeling, they're putting on there, like we have 20% protein, but they're not saying we have 20% crappy protein. Mm-hmm. Or like you could do better with this and this mix, but it's going to cost 20% more, so we don't mix it like that. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm doing this video, so you guys are like, oh, really? Yeah, really. So you can go out and do a little research or take a list of ingredients and run it through one of these nutrition websites on the internet for poultry.
So, with what I was saying, as far as stages of life, chicks and adolescents are going to need a higher protein. Usually it's around 20%, maybe a little bit more, depends on the breed. And then as they grow to almost egg laying age in general, pullets, young hens, then they're going to need calcium in their diet now to be developing those eggshells. And because if they're not getting the calcium, then you're going to get like shellless eggs, and that calcium source may be pulled from their skeletal system as well. And
they have a spongy bone in the back
was it
in their legs. Yeah, where there's a reserve of some calcium that their body pulls from when it's not sufficient. That's true.
Yeah, and so now once they're about to be laying eggs, or they're starting to lay eggs, they're not really growing in size anymore. So a lower protein of around 16-18%, depends on the type of food that you're using, would be sufficient for an older bird.
Correct. Yeah. Very good. All right. Anything else in there? I'm going to move on to feather quality and molting. And I'm going to tell you a little brain burner that seems very untrue, but is true. So when chickens molt, what do we know about that? They're losing their feathers. It usually has to do with photoperiodicity or like the diminishing sunlight, less hours in a day. Chicken goes into a molt, or your quail go into a molt in like the fall time, early to mid-fall.
Or depending on the age. Chickens, they'll do 18 months. They'll do that real big molt.
Feathers are 85% protein, so when we're feeding them, we're going to be giving a higher protein diet for their feather nutrient needs. However, what's interesting is the chickens also, I guess they stop laying.
They stop laying for sure, because they're taking the energy. So laying eggs takes a lot of energy from their body. So now molting and growing new feathers, that takes a lot of energy too, and it's a priority to the integrity of the bird. So they're now going to stop laying and allocate that energy to the production of eggs.
Yeah.
I mean, not eggs,
so
feathers.
The chicken actually, the hens, they reduce their intake
of
feed initially during the beginning of a molt. Mm-hmm. So they may not be eating as much.
Which makes you think, like, what? Wouldn't they be eating more?
And then they're going to start needing their higher protein diet, and I guess, like 18 or 20 during a molt?
Yeah, so supplement. But yeah, so
and again, quality protein, like a 16-18% high quality digestible protein will meet the needs. Maybe a 20 or 21% protein. If it's a poor protein, may not. Depends on the protein source.
But yeah, so they may not increase in how much they're eating, because now they're getting energy. They have energy reserves kicking in that was originally being used to support egg production.
This seems like I'm thinking to myself, are normal people watching this? Because we're talking about like all these very specific things, like we're building Olympic athletes. When it's like, they're just my chickens. I just want an egg. What are you talking about? Lysine, you know. Yeah, but it's interesting stuff you should know about.
Proper diet and, setup of the environment and everything, sunlight and the flock mates.
Kelly said, I'm normal. I'm watching. Thank you, normal watchers.
If you're taking care of all their needs, including proper diet daily, then you'll end up with really healthy animals, and they're happy. They feel good. Tucker says, I'm not normal.
Okay.
Chicken systems are complicated. Yes.
They are.
Then you're not going to really you'll have minimal health issues because they're just vibrant and healthy and they have a good immune system and they're happy.
Yeah.
And so when you start seeing things, physical changes, it might not necessarily be like they're being bullied. It could be that they're deficient in some sort of nutrient. And a lot of times we don't go that way. But yeah.
Yes, that is something people say, like, why they stop laying eggs and why they're fighting. And I'm always like, well, there's a hierarchy of causal factors that I usually go through. Like, number one is usually a predator might be stressing. There's a stress. Mm-hmm. Stress, overcrowding. And then down the line, I might say there could be a nutrient deficiency. Mm-hmm. And I say it like that because it's a broad statement, because it has to be broad. Because there's a lot of possible nutrient deficiencies. I mean, there's like more likely cases that something's missing, but there could be a nutrient deficiency. So nutrient deficiencies also can instigate abnormal behaviors because of lack of production of certain neurochemicals, neurotransmitters, or their production of those neurotransmitters, like, melatonin and serotonin.
Where they'll be calmer. Well, without that, then they'll be irritable and not as... mellow. Yeah.
Without the tryptophan, like the appropriate amount of tryptophan in their diet, it can cause these discrepancies and cause these behavior anomalies that you don't want in your chickens. And it's hard to decipher that. Like remember, like I said, our brains are simple. We're not looking at our chicken pecking and saying, must be lacking tryptophan in its diet. That's what it looks like to me.
But often us humans will eat something, maybe, something we know isn't like fast food or something, and then we're like, or we'll have a donut, like a whole bunch of sugar, and then we'll feel like energy, and then suddenly we'll feel really bad, and we're like, oh, it's because I ate this, or I don't feel well, and now I'm really grumpy because I don't feel well. Well, the animals, they have the same thing. If their diets are off, and their moods and behavior can change.
This so we mentioned this is on my notes. I get a lot of tryptophan at Thanksgiving. Yes, you do. And that's because it synthesizes or helps a precursor for melatonin. Mm-hmm. So methionine deficient flocks exhibit more pecking, which we described before. So nutrient deficiencies and behaviors. So methionine deficiency, which there shouldn't be if you're using a commercial feed. But a methionine deficiency, you may see some of those pecking behaviors. It might not be stress, aggression, like just a bad male or something like this. It's possible that it could be that deficiency. Mm-hmm. Again, you got to look at the diet, look at the feed, see how long you've been on it. And of course, as with all of this friendly information we're giving, talk to your poultry veterinarian specialist.
Because they exist. These people exist.
Yeah, talk to your vet. And so why we put a lot of effort into all this information. We don't just do these videos. We deal with actual living, breathing humans who buy chickens from Angela or get quail from us. So we want to educate them because, like, I remember somebody's like, oh, wow, you guys do a lot. And I was like, yeah. I was like, what do you think? We're like hillbillies with a truck? Like, just drop off animals and disappear? A lot of people do that. Like, here's your chickens, and they're gone.
This is a side story. Years ago, when we were... just a couple years away. Anyway, I think Christopher had a conversation on the phone.
Normal is overrated.
with a customer that he was meeting, and I think you said something like, yeah, they sounded like they just, I guess the way they talked or whatever, that they sounded like they'd be in an old beater truck, maybe with overalls, what are they called? Anyway, and with a dog on the seat. So then he goes and meets them, and that's exactly what it was.
Well, I'm good with my site profile stuff. Okay, so
but there's nothing wrong with that. It was just,
I don't wear shoes all summer. I'm hillbilly as they come.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so why we put a lot of effort into this is because it's incumbent upon the individual running a business, if you're doing a poultry thing or a hatchery, to be able to educate the people you're dealing with. Show a little savvy in the field you're studying or engaged in. Like if you're a carpenter and you know anything about different hammers or wood types, you're gonna look like an idiot. Well, you can build a wall, but you don't know anything about walls. So I always say, learn about your endeavor, and you'll never know everything. But like a functioning knowledge. There's functional knowledge, then there's expertise knowledge. Like when you're going into raising birds, quail, chickens, you should have a functioning knowledge. It doesn't need to be even at this level with all this nuanced stuff, but a functioning knowledge, a functional understanding of the birds, how they work, their needs, their basic stuff. Because, like I said at the beginning of this thing, we are all very complex systems. It's way too much information to have, especially this is my hobby. I have chickens. I don't expect people to go get a master's degree in chicken physiology. That's ridiculous. Just understand the basic stuff. And the great thing is, Mother Nature does most of the work. Mother Nature does the vast majority of the work. Everything's already written in its DNA on how to function. God was sitting there, like, I'm going to make a chicken this week. I wrote down how to function on the DNA and stuck it in chicken, and the chicken does it. It works great. It's just that chicken's no longer in the environment where those instructions were written for, so we got to take care of them at that level.
Yeah, and for people, which I think most people who are watching, who want to have healthy animals that are happy, doing well, and they're productive. If you want them for eggs, or if you want them even as a pet, and you want them to be a happy pet, not a grumpy pet. Just the understanding and having some sort of perspective that, a chicken, people say, oh, it's just a chicken. There's not much to it. It's just a chicken. Or like a goldfish. It's just a goldfish. But it is actually a complex creature.
Whoa.
And
the creature's not... The cell, just a single cell, is unimaginably complex, let alone the whole animal.
Yeah, and just having, a broader perspective, so that when you're observing your chickens and your quail, and you're seeing different behaviors or different changes, or you're seeing something's not in alignment, then just understanding, like us, how what we eat really affects us. And same with them. And just thinking like, oh, it could be diet. It could be the diet, because we feed them like the same thing every day almost. And so it's important that they're getting properly what they're supposed to have. So when you're thinking and you're seeing some sort of change in their feathers, the quality of their feathers, or suddenly they're molting and they shouldn't be molting, or they're low energy, just having the thought, oh, nutrition. What could be off with the nutrition? Is that an option? And then you can learn so much just by, delving. The resources available these days, it's pretty, it's great.
And the great thing is, it might not be nutrition. It could be sick. It could have an illness.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like an illness can mimic and look like a nutritional deficiency. Nutritional deficiency can mimic a predator coming around at night and causing stress. All these things, the diagnostics are very difficult. So that's why you want to
collect as much data as you
get
can.
The data, take them off to your chicken specialist, or if you know what's happening, you have a pretty good idea. I'm not giving you advice on how to treat your critters, but the more you know, the better diagnostics you'll be able to perform. Is that correct? I think that makes sense. Yeah, the more you know, the more you understand the animals, and the more you work with them, the more you know you'll get, and that's the cool thing, you'll get used to their behaviors, because they have their own behaviors, each chicken, and they each have their little personalities. So if they're off, you'll know, because you're their caretaker, and you've socialized with them. Kind of like Jane Goodall with those monkeys. Remember? She hang around with the monkeys.
Yeah, and with all that said, it's not necessary to be like fretful.
Hi, Verna.
Oh, hey, Verna. be fretful or just like get stressed about, these details and stuff. It's just good information to know, and everything's a stepping stone with learning. So, you get your animals, you find what you think should be, what they should be eating, somebody recommends something, and then you're just learning and learning and learning, so.
Yeah, what the hell was I going to say about the feed? So yeah, learning about your feed when you're purchasing feed, and it depends on where you are, like how intense and how deep are you into your animal care for your chickens. Do you really want to know and put that time in? You can get that information and find out like who their sources are. You can do all kinds of cool investigative research. I don't know, if you're science-brained and you're like inquisitive like that, it might be something that interests you. I'm really, that's my thing. I'm fascinated by that kind of stuff. But it's practical information. It's good information. That's why we like to bring it to you guys. It's all the depth of this stuff you don't need to know, I'm sure, but having some of the general idea and understanding is going to be helpful. Mm-hmm. This way, right? Like when you run into people and they say words, you don't have to go like this anymore. You're like, oh, I know about that. Harder to research since AI took over. Yeah, it's best to have like a tenured human being who has vast experience. That's probably the best thing to talk to. Not
and there's plenty of data, research available where they've tested groups of animals and such on feeds, and they understand, how they react and stuff.
There's legit academic sources you can find.
But the more we understand, then the more like it de-stresses us and settles us and helps us just open up a perspective. When you got lots of questions, no answers, then it just doesn't leave you settled. So.
Oh, I'm going to show Berna something. Berna, we do these quail Q&As, and Angela hates it when I bring in the live quail. So
just because usually we've showered already, and then they get flappy. And
I do illustrations. So I printed a proportionally like sized quail. So this is my new like live quail display. Okay, I got to get kids to bed. I'll catch you later. Thanks, Nemo. Thank you very much for coming in, Kelly. I hope you feel better. Please get well.
Yeah.
Please feel better.
I think we're wrapping up anyway. But yeah, if you guys are, if you're new to our channel, or maybe you're not a subscriber yet, please feel free to subscribe. That really supports us, helps us grow.
I don't know, I have no understanding of YouTube, but there's a share button that you share. People always say, share my video. So I'm going to be one of those people. This is actually a good video. This is actually good information, because I like these academic type videos more than the general Q&A videos. Yeah, hit the old share out. Somebody might find it interesting. They're like, what's this idiot talking about? Chicken feed, who cares? Oh, wait a minute, I care. You never know. All right, friends, thank you very much for stopping in. It's always a pleasure. Yeah, we try to do these lives once a week. Try to do something of value and information. And if you look in our live video section, we have tons of videos that we've done, and most of them are different. I have to say, I love the cartoon quail. Oh, thanks, Homestead.
Yeah.
Homestead Matters, what's your real name? Because I hate calling people by fake names. And I think I wrote to you on the internet. Yes, I think we're friends on the internet. Good night, Verna. Andy said something?
Yeah, I think.
This is a good video. I'll be watching for sure. Well, thanks, Andy. Yeah, I'm really fascinated by nutrition science. Have a great week. Thanks for the fun. Thank you very much. Thanks for stopping in. Homestead Matters. We're friends on the internet. I forget her name. I look again. But yeah, Andy, this is actually... Oh, Katie. Right, of course.
Pleased to meet you.
Pleasure is all mine, ma'am. All mine indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Yeah, Andy, this nutrition science is really interesting, because you'll begin to understand how it subtly and fundamentally can affect your critters. Thanks for the lessons. Absolutely, Taco. It's fun. I like doing these. Information is good.
Yeah.
I'm better than that Bill Nye guy, I tell you that. Yeah, I can't stand him. See, Christopher, if you paid attention when I said hi, you would have seen it. Lol.
Oh, she was saying hi. She was saying everybody's name as she was saying hi.
Yes, you did. I did see that. I saw it a couple times. I thought it was the name of a song. Somebody mentioned a song earlier.
Oh, that's right.
All right. I'll just keep talking for hours.
Have a great night or day whenever you're watching this. Thanks everybody for stopping in.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Good night, Annie. Have a happy one.